was. It was likely a long flight home for those Philadelphia Eagles when they left LA Monday night after their third loss in a row. And with Monday's loss and 4 games remaining in the season, the Eagles have left the door slightly open for the Cowboys in the NFC East. The Eagles still have a 92% chance to win the division. They are projected to win 3 out of their last 4 games. But what we're saying is that there's a chance, right, Jerry?
Well, I watched the game flying up to New York. I'm overlooking Central Park right now, but real excited. They didn't have to put any fuel in the plane. I just flew up here on my own. I know it's cliche, but every play is meaningful right at this particular time, and we sure got a shot at this thing.
Is Jerry Jones right? Do the Cowboys have a shot at this thing? This was after his enormous flex of overlooking Central Park and not fueling the plane. But Marcus Spears, do the Cowboys have a shot at the NFC East? What do you think?
I say yes, but with a lot of apprehension, and it has nothing to do with the Cowboys. We obviously know that they need to win out in order to even be in this conversation, but it's just Philly. It's where they are right now. And look, there were some good things that came out of that game for Philly. Obviously, the turnovers, and everybody is going to talk about that. We saw some explosive runs from Saquon Barkley, some unfortunate plays, the A.J. Brown drop in the end zone. They make that play all the time. So, look, I don't think Philly is going to finish the season with no wins. And coincidentally, I think they win this division. But based on what we've been seeing right now, with the Philadelphia Eagles, whether they can get this ship right or not, is going to determine where the Cowboys sit towards the end of the season. So Jerry is not completely off his skis. And the Cowboys winning 2 of those 3 games, obviously losing the game to the Lions, hurt them a tremendous amount. But ultimately, you may be a byproduct of what other teams do. And that's where they sit right now. So it'll be interesting to see down the stretch. I think Philly got a chance to win out. Obviously, when it comes to saying that about this team after what we've seen for some weeks, it may not be possible, but I think Philly is going to turn on and win the rest of these games out. If they don't, the Cowboys will be sitting there.
Well, here's the deal. Here's the reality. Jerry Jones opened his mouth and said what he said because of the Eagles, not because of the Cowboys. He's saying, Look at them. Look at this team. Look at them right now. You're damn right we got a chance because we don't know if they're going to win another game. That's what he's talking about. Without saying the Eagles, he's basically indicting the Eagles because it's not just about us, the Cowboys being a game and a half out, needing to win their games. It's about noticing what you're seeing from the division leaders. They don't look like a division leader. Yes. Not only are they on a 3-game losing streak, guys, they have the worst rushing defense in the National Football League over the last 3 games. The Philadelphia Eagles over the last 3 games have been doubled up in rushing. They've given up 575 yards rushing in the last 3 games. Think about that for a second. 575 yards, and they've gained 284 yards. And that was because of the 122 by Saquon Barkley on Monday night. They have been horrendous with their rush defense over this 3-game stretch. So if I'm Jerry Jones, we've got Philadelphia radio and people like that calling out the quarterback. You got A.J. Brown, who's been playing like a stud for the most part. He was alligator arms for that interception. He's got to be held accountable for that. Alligator arms for that interception, and that pass, which was a perfect pass by Jalen Hurts to him in the left corner of the end zone. I understand his arm was being tugged on by Cam Hart, but the bottom line is that is a play that A.J. Brown usually makes because that's why we call him a man amongst boys. Go back to the highlights against the L.A. Rams where he just shoving defenders off of him like they're paper, for crying out loud. This is what he was doing. But somehow, some way, you don't catch that pass. That's not good enough, especially when you open your mouth. And I got nothing but love for A.J. Brown, but you got to make those plays. You got to make those plays, okay? But with that being said, he still has like 24 receptions, 35 attempts. He's been balling over the last 3 games or so, been one of the top 2 receivers in the NFL statistically, and they've lost all 3 games. So Jerry Jones is sitting there saying, got a wide receiver that was complaining. Now you're getting him the ball, but you're still losing. You can't defend against the run. You lost 3 straight games. We were one of the teams that beat you, by the way, after we spotted you 21 points. You're damn right he's thinking they got a chance because he's looking at a reigning defending Super Bowl champion that looks like anything but. That's why Jerry Jones said what he said, and he's right.
You were banking right now on a complete and utter meltdown from the Philadelphia Eagles. 3 straight
Correct.
losses, yes, but the 3 teams that they have left, or the 3 games that they have left, are against inferior opponents. They have the Raiders this weekend. If they lose to the Raiders
At home.
In Week 15, well, you better believe we're going to be
Cancel the
talking
season.
about the Cowboys having a little bit more percentage chance than whatever the graphic tells us. Look, the vibes in Philadelphia right now are horrendous. They just got done with Nick Sirianni's weekly press conference, and they asked him if Jalen Hurts has been considered to be benched. This is where we're at right now. And guess what? Not every media market is the same way.
What?
You could say, well, that's ridiculous, and we're sitting here in New York, and I've got this nice tie and jacket on, and I can speak here in this air. It's different in Philly. It is a cauldron in Philly right now, and we're talking about local media, the fans. Jalen Hurts threw 4 interceptions and fumbled on Monday. They're not thinking about him hoisting the Lombardi Trophy in that media market. It's a different beast. Stephen A., you know it better than anybody. All those years spent covering Philly sports, it is not the same as it is in Indianapolis or in Arizona or a Jacksonville.
Not at all.
And that can affect players. It can affect coaches. 2023, I was covering the NFL for a different network. They sent me down to Philadelphia. They said, hey, the Eagles are in a tailspin. They host an awful Cardinals team. An awful Cardinals team in Week 15. Go cover that game. 12-point underdogs. The Cardinals walked in to Philadelphia amidst boo birds everywhere, and they beat the Eagles that day. I am not putting it out of the realm of possibility that this awful Raiders team finds one reason to galvanize after another and feeds off the booing fans if things don't go early, and the Raiders can find a way on Sunday.
Sam Howell?
Tanner McKee is his name.
Tanner
and he is the most popular person in Philadelphia sports this week
Well,
because that is how
can I
that
chime in
thing
for a second?
Yeah,
Before
yeah,
Swagu,
yeah,
Swagu,
cool.
before you start, Swagu, let me give you all some insight into Philadelphia. They know good and damn well they know good and damn well Jalen Hurts ain't getting benched. That's not what it is. Let me stop you right there before you even start, Swagu.
All right.
They know better. It's not. That's not what they're thinking. What they're thinking is something to light a fire under Jalen Hurts, because if you really, really look at his career, the best of Jalen Hurts has come under the most adverse of circumstances. Mm-hmm. The Super Bowls are an adverse circumstance. Going against Patrick Mahomes is an adverse circumstance. Being at Alabama, an adverse circumstance. Going to Oklahoma, having to transfer when you get benched in the national championship game is an adverse circumstance. This man, Jalen Hurts, has gone through a lot in his young life as a professional and as an elite college athlete, okay? And when called upon to respond, he has. So Philadelphia is the kind of city, and you are absolutely right, I know, not just because I worked there for 17 years, but I was a professional instigator of stuff while I was there, admittedly so. You understand what I'm saying? I'm telling you right now what they're thinking. In other words, what they're saying is, yo, you want your ass on the bench in favor of this no-name cat? You really, really want to be out there being reminded of what it's like to be on the bench? You better get your act together. That's what Philly is doing. They know good and damn well Jalen Hurts ain't getting benched for no backup quarterback. They know that, but they're trying to light a fire under him because everything else they believe that has been tried this year has been failed, Swagu. That's what it's all about. Don't think anything of it other than that.
Okay. All right, cool. I'll let it go then. Light the fire under Jalen Hurts. Right. The Super Bowl champion 6 months ago. Yeah, phenomenal. Yes. That's awesome, Philly. Right. That's a great thought process. I think they've been to 2 Super Bowls in the last 4 years, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, they have.
And that first Super Bowl that they lost, he was the best player on the football field. I got it. I get it. They mad right now, and I understand it. And light a fire under the Super Bowl champion. Cool. Let's do it.
Okay, so
I'll leave it at that, Steve.
Right. Swagu's been sick about
quarterbacks. There's nothing wrong with it because that's when he's been at his best.
Yes.
There's nothing wrong with it because that's where he's been. It's just talk. It's just talk. Now, if he actually were to get benched, that's a different subject. But just talking is just basically trying to light a fire under him because nothing else has worked thus far over the last several weeks.
All right, you pull me back.
Here we go.
Back in this conversation. The idea that you need to light a fire under Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts has been a consummate professional since the first day stepping on the field for the Philadelphia Eagles. And I get it. Like, we want to have this visceral reaction. Things are not going well right now. I understand it all. This is a second-round pick that was drafted with a guy that just got franchise money, was asked to come in and be the starter. What pressure is more than that? Create the pressure for what? Listen, this is where I get sideways with the fans, all right? And understanding that I know Jalen Hurts, I know the type of work that he puts in, I know how he's built. Jalen Hurts is fine. They will be okay in Philly with Jalen Hurts at quarterback. Is he playing great right now? No. Everybody can acknowledge that if you watch football. But the fact that we got to have a fire lit under a dude that was a second-round draft pick, been to two Super Bowls and won a Super Bowl and a Super Bowl MVP, and we talking about lighting the fire under him with his team still in first place in his division.
Well, first of all,
awesome.
Well, first of all, here's where the problem enters with your argument, okay? Swagu, Mr. Dallas Cowboy. The Dallas Cowboys, listen. The Dallas Cowboys were up 21-0, okay? Not Green Bay, not Detroit, not San Fran, not Seattle, not LA. The Dallas Cowboys, the Philadelphia Eagles was up 21-0 on the Dallas Cowboys and lost. Do you know anything about Philly? You can't let that happen to you against Dallas. Now, it's not quite the same as when the New York Yankees lost a 3-0 lead to the Boston Red Sox, okay? Which, by the way, I still have not recovered from, nor has any New York Yankee fan, okay? But the fact of the matter is, that was the ALCS. That was the ALCS. That wasn't a regular season game, so we get it. But the point is, when you Philadelphia and you fall like that, you're looking for answers. And in the case of Jalen Hurts, the only part that I'll say before I pass it to Peter is this. Jalen Hurts, no matter how professional he is, no matter how much he cares, no matter how much of a consummate professional, how much of a great athlete, how much of a bona fide winner he is, there are adverse circumstances that he has been faced with, and then he has risen to the occasion. Last year during the regular season, when everybody was chirping about him, and then he goes out and balls in a game and getting the ball to A.J. Brown, he looks at the media afterwards. He said, "Is that what y'all wanted? Is that what y'all were looking for?" Just to show he could do whatever he needs to do in order to get the job done. That's who Philly knows. And that's who they're looking for right now, because they ain't seen him in a few weeks. And the clock's ticking. That's the reality, sir. That's what's going on.
And if you need some history, Philly, again, I'll say it is not Jacksonville, it is not Tampa, it is not Indianapolis, it is not many of the fine cities we have in this country. Philly media market is different. Doug Peterson won a Super Bowl. 2 years later, was shown the door. Donovan McNabb went to 6 NFC championship games, was shown the door. Traded on Easter Sunday to the arch-rival Washington Redskins. We have seen Carson Wentz be an MVP runner-up and be shown the door 2 years later because they drafted a guy in the second round. That media market is one of one, and if you can withstand and rise above, which I believe Jalen Hurts can, and they will beat the Raiders at home on Sunday, then you'll be okay. But if you let that stuff simmer and you let that stuff seep into a locker room, it has destroyed several world champions long before Jalen Hurts even stepped into that locker room.
Okay, if they lose to the Raiders on Sunday.
Okay, go ahead,
If they lose to the Raiders on Sunday, this desk is going to explode on Monday because we're going to have a lot to say about Philadelphia. But the truth is they are in a bit of a free fall right now. The Eagles are. They've lost 3 in a row. The NFC East, they only have a 2-game lead. Here come the Dallas Cowboys. If the Dallas Cowboys can find a way to win out and miss the playoffs, does that now become a failure? So think about it. If the Dallas Cowboys find a way to win out, but they don't win the division, maybe they're just below the Eagles or whatever the case may be, does that now become a failure for the Dallas Cowboys in the way their season has gone? What do you think, Stephen A?
Yes. And it becomes a failure for my buddy, Jerry Jones. It becomes a failure. Here's why. we've seen them be a different team. Sans Detroit. Obviously, that game against Detroit, that's different. But prior to that, they were undefeated since the NFL's trading deadline. How come you didn't pull the trigger a week earlier? Because if you pull the trigger a week earlier, you might have beat Arizona on that Monday night game. You see, the point is you let Micah Parsons go. It's two things. Number one, it's letting Micah Parsons go. At this particular juncture, we're not going to knock him for making that move because of the moves that's subsequently followed with the Quinnen Williams, with the Logan Wilsons, with Marvin Overshown coming back into the lineup, Deron Bland and others who had been out as well. So we see a Dallas Cowboys defense that was vastly improved. But you do find yourself looking at two things. Number one, you could have made a deal or you should have made a deal earlier, maybe a week or two earlier. Number two, when you look at Micah Parsons, when do you trade him to Green Bay? What the hell you wait? If you're going to move, why don't you move on in the offseason? Why didn't you position yourself to get additional assets? Why do you wait until the last minute? When we look at the Dallas Cowboys, if you end up having a 10, 11 win season and you're talking about just missing out, nuggets like that matter. And that comes down not to Brian Schottenheimer, not to Dak Prescott, not to any of these guys, not to George Pickens and being a little bit lackadaisical in his route running on a couple of occasions last week. It comes down to Jerry Jones pulling the trigger too late with Micah Parsons, okay, and not pulling the trigger quick enough with the Quinnen Williams deal. That to me is where it stands out.
I think Stephen A. is right. If you look at it, and from the 30,000-foot view, we missed the playoffs. And we traded the best defensive player in football, arguably. That said, to get Pickens for a third-round pick, to get Quinnen Williams now in his 20s at defensive tackle, to find some juice and some momentum that they go into the offseason, they're like, okay, we made that massive trade to get rid of Micah Parsons, which everyone said we were idiots for the first 2 months of the season. But we did finish the season showing that we have something to build off of. And at 80-something years old, whatever Jerry Jones is right now, I think that for him is, okay, I have next year, and we're going to be a team that everyone's going to be picking before the season, and everyone's going to be hot on us next year. It just took us a little while getting out of the gates. I don't think it's a failure if they miss the playoffs and they win out. In fact, I think it's a pretty miraculous comeback considering where they were that Monday night in Arizona.
Marcus?
Two things can be true, Schrager, and I agree with you. You can be optimistic about maybe being 10-6-1 at the end of this season, but also what Stephen A. said, maybe if you were a little bit more aggressive, you wouldn't be sitting home watching the playoffs. Look, the goal when you start the season is to get in the tournament. So it's a failure for every team that doesn't get into the playoffs. Now, some probably knew coming into the season that it was against the odds and a long way to go in order for them to have an opportunity to do that. But Dallas wasn't one of those teams before the Micah Parsons trade that we didn't believe could be a playoff contender. They wasn't a team that we thought just would fall off a cliff and not have a chance if they had everybody coming back. Obviously, Demarion Overshown, who was playing well, was on injury reserve, but he came back and is playing at a very high level too. I understand, but this is where it gets sideways for me. It ain't no damn moral victory. I don't want to talk about Dallas with a moral victory. We've seen them in the playoffs. I've had to sit on this show on First Take weeks after a playoff game with Stephen A. and hear him talk about the cliff and how much they fell off the cliff. I'm not getting sucked into, well, they 10-6-1 and they finished strong and it was awesome that they made moves. If they are sitting their ass at home at the end of the season, it is a failure based on what he thought would transpire after trading Micah Parsons. Or you potentially don't trade Micah Parsons. You close out some of those games where you had an opportunity to, and you may not be 6-6-1 right now. You may close out Green Bay. You may have a chance to win against the Arizona Cardinals. So it could be two ways. Stephen A. talking about the moves that he made, awesome. Quinnen Williams, y'all know how excited I was about that. I think it's paid dividends. But I'm not going to sit here at the end talking about, you know what? They did a really good job finishing the season strong. And it was awesome that they finished with 10 wins. I'm not doing that. If they don't make the playoffs, it's a failure. We could look forward to next season when the offseason comes. But right now, it's a failure if they don't get into the playoffs.
I was hoping, Shae, Peter, I was hoping that, Swagu was going to come on.
I stole his thunder. I stole his thunder.
I
stole his thunder.
It's going to be, it's a successful season because, boy, was I going to have a field day with that. You understand? Come January, I was just plotting, and then he stole my thunder. You know what I'm saying? He didn't fall for it. He didn't fall for it. Fair enough. Peter, I will say this to you, Peter. I will say this for you, Peter. Jerry Jones, look. He's in his 80s. He's 83 years old. He's 83 years old. And God willing, he's around for a long time to come. Tomorrow ain't guaranteed. It ain't guaranteed to any of us, especially somebody in their 80s. And the reality is that you can't be walking around constantly thinking about next year. If anybody should absorb and embrace the idea that a non-playoff season is a failure, it should be Jerry Jones more than anybody. The procrastination on some of these moves are a bit mind-boggling to me. Either that or you struggling to get it done. But either way you slice it, that ain't good enough. The fact is, Dallas Cowboys got enough talent. Their offense is a Super Bowl caliber offense when all their cats are healthy, and their defense has really stepped up and showed, regardless of what happened against Detroit last week, that it can do some things. You expect more from these Cowboys, no doubt. They missed the playoffs. That needs to be something that hurts.
Well, they would have to win out first. This Sunday, they have a primetime game, Sunday Night Football, against the Vikings. This year, the Cowboys 1-3-1 in primetime games.